going to the shop and deciding to make a recipe for a casserole, I decided to make a recipe for the right reverse because I haven't done it. So I'm going to be giving you the method for the perfect right reverse. Let's get into it. Okay, so obviously it's the weekend and I'm not in my car. So let's talk about the reasons for the right reverse, because actually it is seen to be one of the most easy maneuvers that is now on the test. However, be careful. I know it does seem simple, but people sometimes think, oh, I've got the easy one, and then they don't give it any respect, and then they can fail for it, which is highly, oh man, it's so sad when that happens, because they're like, oh yes, I've got the easy one, and then they just don't go slow enough, or they make really basic mistakes on something that's potentially easy. So please be careful. If you get it, just be maybe quietly smiling to yourself and thinking, okay, cool, this is the easy one, but give it some respect. Yeah, go through the process carefully, because you want to keep it an easy maneuver. This has replaced the turn in the road, the 3-point turn. God knows why they've done that, really. I mean, that's such a useful maneuver. I mean, it's a good idea for instructors to teach it anyway, right? Of course, because it's so important, but they don't test it anymore. So the pull up on the right is literally pulling the car up on the right safely and then reversing back in a straight line. And this is replacing the turn in the road and the left reverse when you go past a turn and then reverse back into the turn. That's all been abolished. Yeah, so the maneuvers that you've got on your test now are pull up on the right, which is the one I'm about to teach you. Then you've got the parallel park, and then you've got the bay park, which is actually really useful. I'm very, very pleased that they've got the bay park on there, because all of our cars were at risk without the learners knowing how to do that. So the reason for this maneuver is lots of people pull up on the right in their life, and if they pull up on the right and they put themselves behind a car, or if a car then parks in front of them, then pulling off again is extremely dangerous. Yeah, so if you can imagine just being pulled up on the right and then there's a blue car in front of you, pulling off into traffic, you're not going to be able to see anything, right, for ages. That's extremely dangerous. Because of your position as the driver on the right, a lot of your car is going to be out into the road before you can even see anything. Very dangerous, yeah? So what we need to do is we need to reverse back for 2 car lengths, which is what you're being taught by your instructor. And this gives you a nicer view of the surrounding area, so you can pull up in a more safe, pull away in a more safe way. So it's an observational sort of change in your position, so you can see more. Okay, so you change position to be able to see way more, and that's why it's on your test. Now, it still is safer to park on the left, because then you're facing the flow of traffic. That is still safer. But if you are forced to pull up on the right in your life, then it's a good idea, if you've got the space, to reverse back for 2 car lengths, create some space around you to be able to see better and to be able to pull away without the fear of touching or scraping the car in front. Yeah, you can see more, you can see the pedestrians, you can see the oncoming vehicles, and it's better for clutch control and stuff as you pull away. Okay, so let's just get into this. So I've made this little recipe for the perfect right reverse. Okay guys, so this is the recipe for the perfect right reverse. So on your test, this may be chosen for you as one of the maneuvers that you're going to do. So yeah, you might get the parallel park, you might get the bay park, pull in or reverse, or you might get the pull up on the right. Okay, so this could be your entire maneuver, nothing else. Right, so this is the main point of everything. Start well to end well, guys. Yeah, it is absolutely imperative that you start well, and then if you start well, you're more likely to be beautifully straight, and the entire maneuver is just ridiculously easy. So I would really strongly recommend that you put most of your focus in pulling up correctly at the beginning. If you pull up in a dodgy position where you're all completely wonky, and then the examiner asks you to reverse back for 2 car lengths, keeping reasonably close to the curb, yeah, it's going to be a disaster. I strongly recommend that you start well to end well. So as you're driving down the road, the examiner is going to say to you, I'd like you to pull up on the right in a safe and convenient place. If he allows you to pull up in places where there is lines, or if there's a driveway, that will be special permissions, okay? So special permissions, he may say to you, please ignore the yellow line, or please ignore the driveway. If you don't hear any special permissions, you are not allowed. So as you're driving down the road, he may say to you, please find a safe and convenient place to pull up on the left. If you haven't been given any special permissions, you must pull up without being on a line and without being on a driveway. If he says, don't worry about the yellow line, then he's not trying to catch you out or anything. He really means it. He's probably just running out of time a bit. And he's like, yeah, don't worry about that line, or don't worry about the driveway. So it's very common for the examiner to give you special permissions of ignoring the yellow line. And it's very common for the examiner to want you to not start in front of a driveway. Okay, that's quite common, but it depends on your examiner. So I recognise it to be that he would allow you to pull up on the right on a line, but not in front of the driveway. Okay, so listen to your special permissions. So I recognise it that you don't stop in front of a driveway unless you've got special permission, and you don't stop on a line unless you've got special permission. However, when you finish the manoeuvre, which is 2 car lengths back, ignore this for a minute. I'm going to talk about why I've got 5 to 10 in a minute. But when you're reversing back, the ending position is 2 car lengths back in the safest possible way, right? As you reverse back, 2 car lengths is the only thing he's interested in. He doesn't care about driveways at the end. He only cares about the driveways at the beginning most of the time. So when you reverse back and you stop at 2 car lengths back, you might be in front of someone's driveway. He doesn't care about that. So he, most of the time, doesn't want you to start in front of a driveway, and he doesn't care that you stop in front of a driveway at the end. Because really, if you were pulling up and parking, you would be somewhere where you could normally leave the car for a long time. You wouldn't be in front of someone's driveway if you were parking to go off for a cup of tea somewhere, right? So don't park in front of someone's driveway without permission. But when you're doing the manoeuvre and you're reversing back for 2 car lengths, as long as there's no one coming out of the driveway, it's not a bad place to be, because you're only reversing back to see if anybody's coming down the road. And then if you can see that it's safe, then you've got more visibility to be able to pull off safely, like I said before. So it's not like you're going to be stopping and being in front of this driveway at the end for very long. You're only going back to be like, yeah, it's totally safe for me to go. I'm going to pull away. Okay. So start well to end well. So when you're asked to pull up on the right, I would strongly recommend that when you're going over to the right, that you take 5 to 10 car lengths to go forward in a straight line to make yourself beautifully straight. And that is really important. If you were my student, I would say put in a lot of effort to become beautifully straight here. It's so important, in my opinion. Start well to end well. Sorry about my fingers in the reflection. Okay, so here you are. You want to pull up on the right. Okay, so you go mirrors, signal, blind spot, and if it's safe to move over, you then start to make your way over. So you come over. You have no intention of stopping here, because if you did that, you'd be totally wonky and your maneuver would be a total disaster. So come out here, come over here, and then if it's safe to do so, then continue to go up for 5 to 10 car lengths and put loads of effort in to be about a drain width away from the curb, and immaculately straight. Yeah, make sure that your wheels are incredibly straight and you've got about a drain width away from the curb. Okay, so important. All right, so most of the time not in front of a driveway when you stop, all right, unless you've been given your permissions. So if somebody's coming towards you, yeah, because it's an operating road, you're going to go mirrors, signal, and then somebody's coming down the road. Fine, okay, so you're just going to come up here and you're going to be placed here, stopped near the line, a little bit like you were turning right, actually, just left of centre line, and just wait patiently. Just stop there with your signal on and just wait patiently and just let him just go down the road. Yeah, people will have to queue behind you if that's the case. One of my students years ago, the examiner said, can you pull up on the right, please, in a safe and convenient place, because he was about to do this manoeuvre. And I was sat in the back of the car, and my student saw a car coming like that. And my student went, no, I can't, and just carried on. And I was like, oh my God. I was so shocked. My student just went, no, I can't, and just carried on up the road. And I looked at the examiner's face and his eyes widened. He was so shocked. He was like, I've never come across this before. Luckily, she was then asked to do the Bay Park, and she did that one instead. And she passed a test that day. But afterwards, he actually said to her, what happens if you lived there? What happens if your house was there and you wanted to pull up on the right and somebody was coming? Would that stop you from like eventually and safely pulling up on the right if that was your house? And she was like, no. I mean, it was a learning curve for me, I tell you. Like, that was a relatively funny story because she passed and it was all right. So the idea is you need to pretend that you live there, yeah? So you can mirror signal, pause and give way to oncoming people, however long that takes, and then check your blind spot just before moving again. Once they've gone, move over to the right, yeah? Do not park here. That will give you a terrible position. Go over to the right, and then move 5 to 10 car lengths forward, pausing immaculately straight and about a drain width away from the curb. If you're coming over to the right like this, and then throughout this 5 to 10 car lengths forward thing, somebody else comes, just pause, yeah? Let them pass you. And then when that situation has happened and it's safe again, then continue and then go to your starting position. So it can be broken up into pieces if necessary, okay? All right, I hope you understand about the driveway thing. Most of the time, it's not in front of a driveway at the beginning. And if you've been given special permission, you can be on a line. But please listen to your special permissions. Moving on to method 2, not as in part of your method 2. What am I banging on about? It's the same method. Stage 2 of the same method. So we've spoken a little bit about this already, but you want to be a drain width away from the curb when you come to a stop. Strongly recommend. So you're not going to be like a Rizzler paper away from the curb there, because don't forget you've got 2 car lengths to reverse back. He wants you in a minute to go 2 car lengths backwards. So you don't want to be a Rizzler paper away from the curb. That's going to be a disaster. I mean, the likelihood of you hitting the curb is just so unbelievably high. So give yourself that drain width away from the curb so you've got that healthy space. Now, it can only be a drain width away because you don't want to be like over here so people are actually seeing you as some kind of like hazard and stuff. It's just a little healthy position away from the curb there, so you're not going to hit the curb like instantaneous when you go back, because hitting the curb, I'm afraid, is a fail. However, being too far away from the curb is also a fail. I've only had one person fail for that in the whole time that I've been teaching this manoeuvre. It's more likely that the student will hit the curb. So yeah, I mean, just be careful of both, of course, but be about a drain width away and utilize your right mirror to be able to see that you've got healthy space from the curb, so you can use your right mirror. If you've got a blind spot mirror, the little round one, sometimes there's a rectangular one, that's quite helpful. If you've got one of those, you don't have to have one, but you can utilize the right mirror to see if the curb is there. You can also very carefully open your door to have a look, but it kind of like disturbs the whole manoeuvre a little bit. You make sure that if you're opening your door to check your position, that you have full observations, because obviously if you open the door and hit a pedestrian, that would be a disaster for your test and obviously for the pedestrian and any bikes that are around or whatever as well. So, but yeah, just please be very, very careful if you're doing that method. My students say, can I open the door and look? And I'm like, if you look around first, yes. But utilize the mirror. It does show you a lot, and use that. Make sure you're a drain width away. So I've just drawn in here the driveway, so you can't park there. So this person would have come up and given way if necessary, and then come up and then driven past the driveway and then stopped there, ready to do the manoeuvre. Okay, so he can reverse back, and if he finishes in front of this driveway, as long as there's no one coming out of it, then that would be an okay thing for you to do. And then when it's safe to do so, you would then move off. Okay, so mirror signal, pulling up on the right, and then you can turn your signal off. So you can go, when you're happy with this position of drain width away from curb, you can just go handbrake neutral signal and then wait for the examiner to tell you what to do next. If you're pulling up on the right, it is highly likely that you're going to be doing the manoeuvre. Yeah, he doesn't just pull you up on the right and then ask you to pull away again. I have seen that happen, but when he stopped the student, something dodgy was going on around here, and then the examiner thought, yeah, better not, and then asked the student to go again. But that's not normal normally. What he's going to be doing if you're pulling up on the right is doing the manoeuvre. So set yourself up to do the manoeuvre, drain width away, when you're asked to pull up on the right, and then wait for further instructions once you've gone handbrake neutral signal to be able to then be told that you're doing the manoeuvre, because you might not, right? He may have seen something dodgy and he's like, damn it, I can't do the manoeuvre. I'm going to have to ask this student to drive on and we'll do something else like Bay Park or whatever, because he may have seen a danger that both of you didn't see to begin with. So stop there in a great position, beautifully straight, drain width away and handbrake neutral signal, and wait for further instructions. Now, we've spoken about special permissions, about being allowed to pull up on the lines, double yellow lines, single yellow lines in this case that I'm talking about. You may be given special permission to ignore those. You may be given special permission to stop in front of driveway. That is possible, but most of the time he doesn't want you to park in front of the driveway. So be careful, listen to your special permissions. Don't pull up in front of a driveway. Don't stop on a line unless you've been given special permission. All right, he'll make it very clear if he's giving you special permissions. Your ending position is going to be when the manoeuvre has finished, you drive back for 2 car lengths, keeping reasonably close to the curb. It's 2 car lengths back, which you will have to do a very good guess. If you drive back for 1.5 car lengths and then stop, and then he needs you to go back further, then he's going to say, please, can you go back further? You'd have to check around again and then add another half car length. Normally, if the student's going back too far, the examiner will go, thank you, that's fine, you can stop there. So he will stop you if you're going back for too long, but if it's not enough, he will stop. I did have a student once who was like coming in, she was about to hit the curb after a car length, and she tried to sneakily finish the manoeuvre there. So she came in and went handbrake neutral and tried to sort of end it there. And the examiner was like, no, you need to go back further, please. I do feel a bit bitter about this particular story because he used a hand gesture like this. Can you go back further, please? It put my student under a lot of pressure and she still reversed, hit the curb and failed her test. Feel a bit bitter about that still, because that hand gesture of can you come back further, please, put her under a lot of pressure, in my opinion, to go backwards. When possibly if he said, I need you to go back further, please, because the ending position is 2 car lengths, perhaps she would have then gone, I'm going to hit the curb because I can see in my right mirror that I'm going to that I'm going to hit the curb. Perhaps she would have used one of her fixes. You're allowed 3. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But perhaps she would have gone forward and then reversed back. And then perhaps she would have had her driving licence a little bit earlier than she got it in the end. Because she would have had to have gone to test again. I can't even remember who that was, happened years ago. But you've got 3 fixes. So if you go back, you can, and it goes wrong, so you're either going out like this or in like this, fine, don't worry about it. Just stop, check everything, and go forward, and then get yourself beautifully straight again, which will probably mean that you go back to the beginning. It normally does. If this manoeuvre needs to be fixed, you normally have to go back to the beginning because of the spacing. It just, if a student only goes back a little bit, it does absolutely nothing. It does not correct anything, and then they just go back to the position that was wrong again. So yeah, I strongly recommend, if you are fixing it, to go forward enough. Moving on. Okay, so the key points for any manoeuvre that you're doing are these. Key points are control, observation and accuracy. The key points of control is basically how do you control the car. So how's your clutch control? As in, are you going back beautifully with your lift and dip of your clutch? Obviously, if you're driving an automatic, that would be a little bit different. I teach in a manual, so I'm going to be talking about that. So basically, it's like lifting and dipping your clutch. The brake really shouldn't be used unless you're actually stopping. It definitely shouldn't be that you've got the biting point and then you're operating the foot brake for this, guys. That is not correct. If that's happening, the car is going to be grinding, creaking, sounding really dodgy. You're going to be having like a real burst of energy every 5 seconds when you release the brake. That is not pleasant. You should be dipping your clutch, lifting your clutch, dipping your clutch. That is proper clutch control. Now, if you are doing the go stop method that I just explained with the brake, that is really wearing on your clutch. Very not good at all. However, you're not going to fail for that, but if you were my student, I would be teaching that out of you big time, so you can protect your clutch overall. When you are using your brake, your clutch should be fully down to protect your clutch and then you should be braking. And then when you want to move again, you release the brake if there's no hill, and then you come up to the biting point and lift and dip your clutch to have ultimate control. Very important. So clutch control, yep. So control of car, that you don't literally don't like lose control of your clutch. Okay, moving on to observation, you must look out of the back window when you're reversing. He wants you to look out the back window. It is very important. If you don't look out the back window enough, you're going to fail. If you don't check your blind spots at the beginning and at other times on this maneuver, you're going to fail, because you have to know about all cars, all pedestrians. You have to know about all of the safety of this maneuver. Is there anybody driving towards you? Is there any pedestrian walking in front or behind you? Is there anyone coming out of their driveways? Yeah, just bikes, yeah, motorbikes, bikes you can't hear because obviously the pedaling is not loud enough. So you need to have excellent observation, especially if you're listening to music, blah, blah, blah. The accuracy for this maneuver is the last thing that he's looking for. It can be fixed 3 times, okay? So the accuracy is the last thing he's looking for. He wants you to get there in the end. Get there in the end, okay? So if it goes a bit pear-shaped, don't worry about it. It's totally cool. It really doesn't matter. You've got 3 fixes on this maneuver, so you can go forward. If you are going forward, it's highly likely that you're going to go back to the beginning, because it creates the space that you need, and it creates the straightness and the drain width away from the curb that you really, really need, and I strongly recommend. So use your fixes if necessary. I don't think I've ever known anybody. Oh, someone's at the door. Bear with me. Sorry about that. I'm back. That's Amazon at the door. This is the beauty of doing a video at home. Where was I? Yeah, so fixes, you can fix it 3 times. I don't think I've ever met a student who has used all 3 fixes on this particular maneuver, because actually if you fix it properly, I mean, don't worry, like in the same breath, please use all of them if you need to. I'm just saying that this maneuver, I think I've seen somebody use 2 fixes, but 3 is extremely generous. That's why I put a heart next to it. 3 fixes, very generous. You should really be able to sort it out in 3 fixes, this maneuver. The most likely thing that you're going to fail for if you fix your maneuver is immediately observation. Guys, if you fix your maneuver and you get all nervous and you think to yourself, oh no, the maneuver's gone wrong, what am I going to do? I've nearly hit the curb. Don't hit the curb, stop before it happens. I've nearly hit the curb, I need to go forward, or I'm going out into the road, you know. And then if you start panicking about it and your observation isn't good, you're very likely to fail for observation. Be careful of your observation if you are fixing your maneuvers. Not just this maneuver, all maneuvers. If you fix your maneuver, you need to seriously look after your observation. Please look after it, guys. Most people fail if their maneuvers go wrong for observation, not the control or the accuracy. It's observation. All right, let's move on. It's getting a bit dark. Okay, so this is the method that I teach. However, it doesn't have to be like this. But if you were my student, I would recommend stopping throughout the maneuver. You do not have to do this. You don't have to do any stops at all. This is how I teach it. I quite like it because it elongates the maneuver. You're burning some time away with a beautiful stop, and then you're burning away some of your test time. You do not have to stop if you don't want to, but if you want to do my method, it is totally allowed, and this is how I've always taught it from the beginning. When you pull up on the right in the correct place and you're beautifully straight, a drain width away from the curb, and you've got beautifully straight wheels, you are then going to wait with handbrake neutral signal for your next, what he wants you to do. If he says, I'd like you to reverse back now for 2 car lengths, keeping reasonably close to the curb, yeah, then you're going to go fine. You're going to go clutch down into reverse. You're then going to do full observations, yeah? If you want to be all technical about it and you're doing the whole like right to left observations, yeah, that's fine, okay? So if you want to start with your right blind spot to check for pedestrians on the curb, and then go all the way around to see if there's anyone oncoming or anyone coming out of the driveways here, or anybody approaching from the left, so you spin it from the right all the way around, and then you look out the back window at the end. That is quite a neat and tidy way of doing your observations from right to left, okay? I quite like it like that. However, it's not mandatory. You can check absolutely everywhere, all blind spots, all surrounding areas, and then look out the back when you reverse. It's fine. You can be doing this on a hill, so be careful of hill stops and be careful of clutch control as you do this manoeuvre. So I would teach my students to do full observations, make sure that there is absolutely no hazard around. If there is, wait for it to go. And then when it's clear and safe to do so, and you're aware of all surrounding areas and driveways and everything, then you would look out the back window. And I say to my students, go back around about half a car length, because 2 car lengths in total is going to be the finish part. So reverse back for half a car length. If you've got this beautiful position at the beginning and you go back for half a car length, it is very unlikely that your steering is going to go so bonkers that you hit the curb or go into the road just for half a car length. I strongly recommend at this stage to keep the steering wheel straight. I'm not in the car to show you right now, but when some people look over their left shoulder and look out of the back window, yeah, they change the wheel completely as they look over their left shoulder, and we've got a hell of a lot of steering on. Please be careful to make sure that your steering wheel is brutally straight when you're reversing backwards, so you can have a really nice straight reverse. Lots of my students say to me at this stage, what am I looking for? Why am I even looking out the back window? There's nothing there. There's no reference point or anything. Yeah, guys, it feels like that, but let me tell you, if there was a pedestrian behind you, it would be extremely useful to be able to see that pedestrian behind you, yeah? So it's really important that you look out the back. It is actually quite a good thing if you're like, what am I looking for? Because there's actually no hazard behind you, if you see what I mean. So you must look out the back window when you reverse. It's imperative. You think of it this way. If you were driving in a straight line forward and I turned around to you and I said, yeah, we're doing really well now, well done. Now I'd like you to look out of the back window for 30 seconds as you drive forward, please. You would think that I've lost my mind. Yeah, it's very important that you look in the direction that you're traveling. If you're reversing, you look out of the back window. If you're going forward, you look out of the front window. Primarily, the predominant check is the direction that you're going in. So if you're reversing, you should be mostly looking out of the back window, the rectangular back window. And when you're going forward, you look out of the front windscreen mostly. Now, I know that you've got other checks to do and you're going to utilise the other windows and stuff, but predominantly you want to look through the back window if you're reversing and look forward when you're going forward. It's just as simple as that. The observations that the examiner has to see is 4 round observations, and then when you reverse back at your stopping points, you are then going to check again. Now, as I said at the beginning, you don't have to do this method that I'm about to talk about here. You don't have to stop at all. But if you miss a vehicle that's coming here or here and you continue to move when the vehicles pass you or the pedestrian crosses the road or the bike comes, you're going to fail. You have to stop for all vehicles that come. You are not allowed to have any movement if there is a vehicle near you. I nearly had an examiner lose her temper once because my student was still and there was a car about 2 million miles away and my student wouldn't move. We're talking about close proximity to the car. Yeah, when they're about 10 car lengths away from you, you need to make sure that you've stopped. Depends on their speed, yeah? But when they're close enough to you, you need to be in a stopped position. He does not want you to be moving in any way when people are around. Now, you may be a hazard, so you may stop and then somebody comes up and stops because they need to give way to somebody that's coming, and you need to hold your nerve if that happens. Stay still, wait for that person to give way, check all your mirrors and just see that he's giving way, and then he will then go when he can or she can. Okay, so that's that. Now, this is my method. I like this method because it burns some time and it also makes you stop and look around, so you're less likely to fail for observation, not stopping for other cars. So I ask my student to look all the way around, all round observations, possibly from the right to the left, but you don't have to, like I just mentioned a minute ago. And then you're going to reverse back for half a car length, and then you're going to come to a natural stop. You would have looked out the back window the entire time and then stopped, keeping the steering wheel nice and straight. At this stopping point, half a car length back, I then say to my students, look around for all hazards, make sure that there's no new hazard of people coming out of driveways or people coming or people crossing the road or cycling near you, and then look in your right mirror, make sure that you're still a drone width away from the curb. If all those things are still safe, then you check around from the right to the left if that's the way you want to do it, reverse back for half a car length, stop at this point, then check all around, anyone coming out of the driveways, anyone coming front or back, any pedestrian crossing the road or a cyclist coming, and then check your right mirror to see if you're still a drain width away from the curb. If it's okay, check from the right all the way around to the left, reverse back and travel back half a car length or so, and then come to a stop. And then at this point, check all the way around, check for people coming out of driveways and bikes, pedestrians, oncoming vehicles, and all the rest of it. Check your position from the curb, and then hopefully, yeah, that would be your 2 car lengths-ish. Now, it's going to be very difficult for you to judge half car lengths, but when I say half a car length, that usually with those stops makes it enough, and then you just stop there. You can finish in front of a driveway. He doesn't care about that. He may just care about the beginning. At this point, if you haven't gone back far enough, then the examiner will say, can you go back further, please? Be careful. If you're going to hit the curb at this stage, you can go forward. If you are going to go forward, check all round observations, especially blind spots on all sides. Only move when there's no one around. Go forward and make sure you get your drain width away from the curb still, and then make sure your wheels are immaculately straight, and then do the entire process again. If you are not going to do the stop method, it's fine, okay? I meet students sometimes who have excellent clutch control and they just look out the back, and then they just very slowly then look forward and then look to the mirror and then look out the back and then continue, and then they slow down even more and they look forward and they look in the mirror, and then they go backwards and then they slow down a bit and they look forward. Yes, totally, you can do that, absolutely no problem at all. But if you hit the curb, or if you end up too far away and you haven't stopped for another hazard on the road, bike, pedestrian or car, you're going to fail. I've had students there was one person who had a Royal Mail van just go past and the student was still moving, they failed. I've had a student move and then there was 2 bikes that went past and that made them fail. I was speaking to a student who failed for this manoeuvre. No, sorry, she didn't fail, she got a minor for it. I was talking to a student how she stopped and there was a pedestrian here trying to cross the road, and there was she stopped, which is absolutely correct, but then the pedestrian was like, you go first, it's fine. So there was an allowance from the pedestrian to let her continue, which is quite unusual, I would say. But because of that happening, the student needed to know about that and that understanding between them, and they needed to continue. She got hesitation fault because the pedestrian had let her continue, and then she needed to read that situation carefully. Stop for all hazards. I hope I've made that totally clear. Yeah, I don't think I need to go through that again. Stop for bikes, pedestrians and cars. You mustn't move when they are in close proximity to you. Okay, so when reversing, the primary place to look is the back window, but consider hazards and position. I think I've covered that. So when you're reversing, you should be looking at the back window mostly, but if you're doing my method of stop, that's the time that you can look in all other places, all your blind spots and the mirror. So that's what I mean. Consider other hazards by looking everywhere, and check your right mirror to see if you're still a drain width away from the curb. My advice to you is don't rush, because yes, this is an easy manoeuvre, but if you rush this and go, oh yes, I've got the really easy one, thank God, this is fabulous. Yeah, I've seen students just make a total mess of this on mock tests. They've come in and they've stopped and they're all angular here, and then I've gone, oh God, here we go. And then when we've put it into reverse, they've just snaked down the road because they pull it in and then they have to pull it away and then they pull it in again, and it's just like a total nightmare. So I strongly recommend that you put in all of that really lovely effort to go 5 to 10 car lengths forward and get yourself beautiful, start well to end well. Strongly recommend this 5 to 10 car lengths forward. Really, that may even be the most important part, to start well. Get that really beautifully straight wheels away from the curb, and when you reverse, hold that steering wheel straight. It is just so important. Is it an easy manoeuvre? Yes, but if you don't start well, it's not an easy manoeuvre anymore. It's an absolute nightmare, because you're just going to be snaking down the road, nearly hitting the curb, going out into the road and stuff like that. Snaking down the road does not look great. You do not want to be hitting the curb. All right, guys, so I hope this little video has helped you today. I need to do one in car, but just because it's the weekend, I thought I'd give out this information for you. and I really hope it helps you. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.